Everyone assumes buying a home is the smarter financial decision. It is one of the most repeated pieces of financial advice in the world, and it is sometimes completely wrong, not because renting is better, but because the answer depends on numbers most people have never actually run. By the end of this video, you will know exactly how to calculate which one is right for your specific situation. And the answer might not be what you expect. Let us start with the argument most people never hear made properly. Renting is not throwing money away. When you pay rent, you are paying for a place to live. That is not waste. That is a service you are consuming. The alternative framing that rent is wasted money only makes sense if you believe that every housing cost should build equity. But that is not how housing works for buyers either. A significant portion of early mortgage payments goes to interest, not equity. You are paying for the cost of borrowing, not building ownership. Beyond the framing, renting offers 3 genuine financial advantages that are rarely acknowledged. The first is flexibility. Renters can move for work, for relationships, for opportunity, without the friction and cost of selling a property. In a world where careers change and cities matter for income, that flexibility has real monetary value. The second is zero maintenance liability. When the boiler breaks, the landlord pays. When the roof leaks, the landlord pays. Homeowners carry that liability entirely, and the costs are both unpredictable and significant. The third, and most underappreciated, is capital freedom. The money not locked into a down payment is free to be deployed elsewhere. Invested in a broad market index fund, that capital can grow at a rate that competes seriously with property appreciation, particularly in markets where property prices are high relative to rents. Now, the case for buying, and it is a strong one when the conditions are right. The most obvious argument is equity building. Every mortgage payment reduces what you owe and increases what you own. Over time, as the mortgage is paid down and the property appreciates, you accumulate an asset with real value. Renters do not build that asset. Their housing cost leaves no ownership behind. Research consistently shows that homeowners build significantly more wealth over their lifetimes than renters of equivalent income. A large part of this is the forced savings effect. A mortgage payment is non-negotiable. It gets made every month, building equity whether or not the owner would have saved that money otherwise. Renters who intend to invest the difference frequently do not. Property has also historically appreciated over the long run, not every year, not in every market, and not at the same rate as other assets. But over decades, property in most developed markets has held value and grown. And beyond the numbers, there is genuine value in stability, the ability to stay as long as you choose, the security of knowing you will not be asked to leave, the freedom to paint the walls, renovate the kitchen, make the space your own. These things matter to people, and they are not irrational. Here is where the buy argument gets more complicated. The purchase price is not the cost of buying a home. Before you move in, add stamp duty or transfer tax, which in many countries runs from 2 to 5% of the purchase price. Add legal fees, add mortgage arrangement fees, add survey costs, add moving costs. In total, buying costs typically add 3 to 6% of the purchase price before a single mortgage payment is made. On a $300,000 home, that is $9,000 to $18,000 gone before you own a single brick. Then the ongoing costs begin: buildings insurance, contents insurance, maintenance and repairs. A commonly cited rule of thumb is 1% of the property value per year in maintenance costs. On a $300,000 home, that is $3,000 per year, $250 per month. That does not appear in the mortgage payment, but is a real cost of ownership. If the property is leasehold, add service charges and ground rent. If it needs significant renovation, add those costs. If you sell within a few years, the transaction costs of buying and selling combined can wipe out any short-term appreciation entirely. None of this means buying is wrong. It means the true cost of ownership is significantly higher than the mortgage payment, and that comparison needs to be made honestly. Here is the calculation most people never run. A 20% down payment on a $300,000 home is $60,000. If that $60,000 were invested in a broad market index fund at 7% per year, our conservative long-run estimate, it becomes approximately $450,000 over 30 years. That is not the argument for renting. Property in the same period may also appreciate significantly. But it illustrates that the down payment is not free money. It has an opportunity cost. Every dollar sitting in property equity is a dollar not compounding in the market. The question is not whether buying builds wealth. It does. The question is whether it builds more wealth than the alternative use of the same capital in your specific market over your specific time horizon. In some markets and circumstances, buying wins clearly. In others, the numbers favor renting and investing the difference. The only way to know which applies to you is to actually run the comparison for your situation. Renting is likely the smarter financial choice if any of the following apply to your situation. You expect to move within 5 years. The transaction costs of buying and selling typically take 5 to 7 years of ownership to recoup through equity and appreciation. Short time horizons make buying expensive. Property prices in your area are significantly above long-run historical valuations relative to incomes and rents. Overpaying for property at the top of a cycle locks in poor returns. Buying would require stretching your finances to the point of having no emergency fund, no investing capacity, and no financial buffer. A house that puts you under constant financial pressure is not an asset. It is a liability. The rent-to-price ratio in your area strongly favors renting. If you can rent a comparable property for significantly less than the cost of owning it after all costs are included, the financial case for buying weakens considerably. Buying is likely the smarter financial choice when the following conditions apply. You plan to stay in the same area for at least 7 to 10 years. Long-time horizons allow transaction costs to be recovered and appreciation to compound. Prices in your area are at or below historical valuations relative to local incomes and rents. Buying in a reasonably valued market gives you a realistic chance of meaningful appreciation over time. You can afford the purchase without eliminating your emergency fund or all investing capacity. Buying should not end your financial life beyond the mortgage. You need reserves and you need to keep investing. Stability and permanence matter to your life plan in ways that have genuine value to you. Financial decisions do not exist outside of life, and the non-financial value of owning your home is real. So here's the simple version. Neither renting nor buying is universally better. The right answer depends on your market, your time horizon, your financial position, and your life plan. What is almost always wrong is making this decision based on the assumption that buying is always smart and renting is always waste, without running the actual numbers for your specific situation. This week, one action. Calculate the price-to-rent ratio in your area. Take the average purchase price of a home you would consider buying. Divide it by the annual rent for a comparable property. If the result is below 15, the numbers generally favor buying. Above 20, the numbers generally favor renting. Between 15 and 20, your personal circumstances and time horizon become the deciding factors. That single calculation cuts through most of the noise and gives you a starting point that is specific to where you actually live.